We know that evaluation is the highest skill that we can show in business studies exams, but we also know it can be the most challenging to show. Let me tell you, it is also the skill that students lose the most marks on in business studies exams. So in this video, we're going to try and give you our top 3 tips to show evaluation. Okay, let's kick it off with tip number 1. It sounds very simple, but we have got to make sure that we leave time for our conclusions. You would be amazed the amount of time that I read sample questions and mock exams by students, and they get to the evaluative questions and I turn them over to Mark and we are hit by 2 cracking stellar paragraphs where students are replying and students are analysing and students are really getting to the heart of a question, and we turn over the page, nothing. And I feed back to that student and I said, it was going so well, what happened? And they said, didn't get time for a conclusion. Didn't get time. Does not exist. We cannot answer long essay questions and come out and say, hey, we just didn't have time for a conclusion. They're too important. They're too vital. If we are writing 2 cracking points, brilliant paragraphs, brimming with application analysis, and not a conclusion, we've structured our exam wrong. We'd have been better robbing from one of those earlier paragraphs, shaving a bit off that second point, giving us an extra 3 or 4 minutes. You will pick up more marks, more kudos. You will impress an examiner more in the first 2 to 3 sentences of a conclusion than you would do in the last 2 to 3 sentences of one of your earlier points. We don't come out of exams saying we don't have time for conclusions. There's too many marks up for grabs for them. So we have got to make sure that we are timing our answers so that we have time to be evaluative. Tip number 2, try and get application into your evaluations, into your conclusions. And one simple way of doing this is to try and pick up or infer what the objectives are of the case study organisation when you are reading any extracts that you are given with. Because the objectives of an organisation can play a big role in what we conclude. The advice that we give, the judgments we reach, the verdicts that we come to can be different depending on what a firm is trying to achieve. So tip number 2 when we're trying to show evaluation, try and make your judgment sensitive to the needs of the organisation in the case study. Try and work out what type of business we've got on our hands here. What is this organisation striving towards? What are its goals? What are its objectives? It may help you reach a conclusion that's sensitive to those needs. Applied conclusions are going to be better than generic conclusions. Tip number 3. Try to be evaluative throughout your answers. Don't rely on just a conclusion at the end to try and capture all of the evaluation that you want to show in an answer. Try and do it at the end of each point, the end of each paragraph. Try and finish each paragraph by returning to the question. Why does this point answer the question? Why is it significant? What is important? What does it show? Why is it a valid point? Why is it a more important argument than something else? Try and show some evaluation at the end of each section of your answer, as well as your conclusion at the end, and examiners will reward you richly. As always, as well as our top 3 tips, we like to try and send you away with a little bit of bonus material as well. So here's an additional little tip for you. If you're struggling to come up with a conclusion, if you're finding it difficult to choose one side of the argument over the other, if you really can't think of how you might justify one argument as being stronger or weightier than another, try this approach instead. Could one idea that you've presented in your answer be better for the organisation in the short run, and a different idea be better for the organisation in the long run? In our conclusions to show evaluation, we don't have to pick a winning side to the argument. We don't need to rank one idea as weightier than the other. if we can evaluate by saying, well, hey, this idea looks really good for the short term of the business. This one's going to work really well in the coming months. But for longevity, to look at the longer term, for a more prosperous future, this is actually the predominant argument. This is the idea that is the weightier. This is the side of the argument that perhaps carries more gravitas. So maybe if we're struggling to pick one idea over the other, we're doing our conclusion inappropriately for this question, and maybe just tweaking it and thinking, well, this works well in the short run, but this looks the better option in the long run, might just get us the evaluative marks we need. So there's your top 3 tips. Throwing a bonus into the mix for you. We're going to throw up here a link to our other videos on how to write conclusions and show evaluation in our assignments. Hoping these exam skills videos are going to serve you well on your examinations day. Good luck with your revision. We'll see you soon.